Welcome back, everyone, to what could be the deciding game between G2 Esports and Infinity for a spot at the group stage of Worlds 2018. So let's take a breather and reset before we go into this final game and start by talking about the team that is on match point, G2 Esports. They came in as third seed from the EULCS to the play-ins. I think expectation was that they wouldn't have too much trouble getting into the group stage. However, after that loss to Supermassive and the opening loss here today, it's been a tough road, and they've been needing to fall back on some of their big carries.
Yeah, and I think for the most part, Wunder has came up exactly like you would have expected. He has been absolutely crushing so far. The entire group stage, to be honest, minus the very first game, like you said, that they dropped to Supermassive. But the rest of the team has been relatively hit or miss this entire time.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. There are members like Wadid starting to get involved in some of these players. Jankos has had a couple of good games now. However, Perkz been up and down in some situations as well. So really, Wunder is the only member you would say has consistently been there.
Yeah, and even though they are on match point, it doesn't seem like it's that clear-cut that they're just going to run away with it. And this is why there's still a very big chance for Infinity. And let's cast our minds back to the beginning of play-ins, where they came in as a new blood from the LLN, underdogs in the play-ins until they managed to upset EDG in spectacular fashion and take out Direwolves. Not that impressive after all. But they did qualify for the next round, and I want to just have the history of the LLN in the backs of our heads. I'll let you reply in just a second. It would be monumental if they come back.
Yeah, it certainly wouldn't. I think that they've continued to do it in the same way. These guys are really good team fighters. If you get them into a mid-game situation where they are thereabouts on the map, they can play it nicely, they're able to piecemeal together some good engages, and their carries are starting to rise to the occasion. Cotopaco especially is starting to look scary.
I mean, it's really crazy to hear that, like, the play-in team is the one that needs to make it to mid to late game even. The biggest concern historically has always been like, well, the major regions can lose if they have a really bad early game. It's a complete opposite here, which is so surprising that the LLN representatives are this good at team fighting. Cotopaco has been crazy with his sidesteps, and they need to be able to find a way to contain Wunder so that they can get to that late game carry.
Yeah, so let's get into it. Because they are still behind, they need to come back and then win 2 games. And I think for all we talk about Wunder performing out of his mind, it is true. So is it now then time to ban that Urgot or take it away? I asked you guys before.
I think it was time like 3 games ago to take away the damn Urgot. I mean, and it seems so much better than what the Aatrox is able to perform at the moment. Every season team that's been able to grab it has won. Just ban the champion.
The only time the Aatrox looks a little bit better is if both of them are getting bursted down at the exact same time. At least Aatrox usually gets back up, but that's about it. Otherwise,
did you see the burst damage going into Wunder that game?
There was one time where the Urgot died and the Aatrox didn't. But outside that, I agree.
All right, so in any case, it's freaking strong, okay? You should ban it out, but then you're still left with Wunder, and I think it goes without saying that he's performing out of his mind. So let's take a look at the matchups that could actually swing it and actually have swung it in different instances. And I'm looking at the mid lane. Perkz, for me, has had great performances, but he's also had times where Cotopaco has had his number. So I think this is something that possibly Infinity could exploit.
Absolutely. I think that last game on Irelia, going like 1-9 or whatever it was at the beginning of over the course of the game, was very concerning. And when he was on Malzahar, looked much better. So Perkz might look to play a more stable matchup in order to stop Cotopaco from popping off the way he has been.
And I think that's a confidence matchup. You know, when you are willing to counterpick Cassiopeia, such a volatile mage matchup, if you fall behind, it can become very dangerous. That's a big statement game, so who'd be feeling it going into this last game, even though they lost it. And the most convincing victory actually was a Malzahar, because they were just able to slow down the tempo of that game and really control the team fight.
That's definitely an option for them. And then I'd also like to look at jungle. You never speak about mid without jungle. And I'm casting my mind back to that Direwolves game. SolidSnake had his best game of the group stage in that game specifically. Jankos has also been such a big factor for G2 when they got their win. So what are we looking for both teams?
And we're seeing more attention go towards it as well. The Nocturne's just been taken off the board every time, so we haven't seen a replicated performance as it was against the Direwolves. But I do think that the Taliyah came up massive, and I would actually like to see SolidSnake take that one away. I think globals are much more punishing in a high-pressure situation like this, and he could have a big impact.
I think that's the case, and you'll definitely see, I hope, more top lane bans, means the jungle pool opens up, so you're not going to stop Jankos from getting whatever his priority pick is, probably on the red side, unless you're first picking it away, which I hope doesn't happen. So both junglers should be picking high-tempo, fast farming, and very good at skirmishing junglers. I like the Scar in the last game, especially because it gives them an easy way to initiate team fights, which is feels like the most important thing for Infinity. Game 1, they won off having an insane amount of engage options, and I want them to have as many as possible, whereas Taliyah is a little less engage focused.
Yeah, I think the series has been awesome. I would be very happy to see a Game 5, but what is your gut feeling? Does G2 take it home here?
I think my gut feeling is actually we might see a Game 5. I think that G2 should still be favorites, but they've made some mistakes, and I think that Perkz is someone that can come back from deficits, but Cotopaco rolling in this situation, I think that they're going to get a couple of priorities, and I'm very confident that they will get the draft more right than they have been able to previously.
I don't know what it is against teams when they play against Wunder. For some reason, they just keep handing him Urgot Aatrox, and until they stop doing that, I don't think they will. So I actually think G2 will win this one in the 4th game, close out the series, and it'll mostly be off their back, and Perkz stepping up and playing better here on red side with counter pick.
In saying that, even if they do win, this is not a convincing game going into groups for G2. This is a series where they have been pushed once again to the absolute limit in lots of these games, and I think that Infinity have performed very well.
Yeah, we can definitely make that caveat if they manage to make it, but nothing is certain. We'll see what happens. Let's get to our casters and get into game.
Thank you very much, Sharks. Welcome back. It is Game 4, G2 Esports versus Infinity. We're already into the thick of picks and bans, and for right now, things are remaining standard. Things are remaining the same. Now, luxury for Infinity is that they don't have to ban Urgot because they can first pick it, but I still get scared. I still have the fear in my heart. Is this just going to be the Wunder show? That feels like the one thing that Infinity Esports cannot let happen.
Yes, the guy has had a... Ooh, the Aatrox ban. That does leave the Olaf open. Now G2, they should be forced to ban away the... Oh, they're going to leave it open.
They say do it. Do it, you won't.
Give us Olaf. That's what they're challenging.
They say, look, you want to take the Urgot? We have a counter pick ready. It's not the same. Relic, so much pressure now on this guy or Cotopaco, whoever takes this champion to make the most of it, because Perkz' Ryze is available. They've given the Alistar open. Do you have to just take the Olaf if you're SolidSnake? But if you do, you're running right into a Taliyah from Jankos.
Okay, so this has been a very different draft to what we've commonly seen. Yes, the Ryze has been banned in every single game, but we already know that Cotopaco can play the Casio. He's more than happy to pick that matchup, and we know that it does pretty well into the Ryze as well. Infinity are even going to take away the Kai'Sa. This draft is shaping up very differently, and it just feels like Infinity trying to take a lot away. I would love to see an Olaf lock in. You take it away from Jankos. Like, this is a G2 draft in the hands of Infinity.
Oh. Okay, this makes sense on the opposite side for G2. Locking in a safe bottom lane for Hjarnan and Wadid. Varus, interestingly, falling off the priority scale in these series. And Jhin potentially a little bit vulnerable to the Olaf dives in the future. But Vedius, that's a lot of pressure on SolidSnake now, because really when we think about the Gragas game where he was successful and the Skarner game where he was successful, it was the setups he was busting out. And this is so much more about him just dominating in the early game.
Yeah, it's, whew. But this is kind of what we want to see, because for SolidSnake, he is typically a proactive early game jungler. You think back to his game 1, where he was hard camping that bot lane, really making things difficult for Hjarnan and Wadid during the laning phase. And then you think back to his Xin Zhao as well, where he was trying to be proactive on the map, his Skarner as well. Oh, wow, and they picked
They banned the Camille and the Lee Sin, and they take the Camille. But Morgana and Braum have been banned, so what do Infinity take here?
But I mean, whoa, we got to talk about the fact that G2 picked Taliyah into Olaf. This is not a good matchup for the Taliyah, and honestly, it's just a bit disrespectful, because we know that SolidSnake is willing to match Jankos. We've seen it multiple times, and I just feel that...
Ooh. All right, well, I'm excited about this. You want to go out with some gems. Go out shining, you know? And I respect that from Arce. He's going to bust out a new pick here, go toe-to-toe with the Alistar, and maybe use that team fighting ulti to good effect. Because imagine Taric and Olaf together running at the face of that Taliyah, that weak point you talked about.
Oh, and they're going to lock in the Irelia for Cotopaco as well. All right, you don't talk about hovers. Stop it. Stop getting excited.
They keep hovering Pike, man. It gets me going every time. But we'll wait. We'll see what the composition is, what the answer is for G2. They're taking their time on this last pick. We'll see if they opt for safety or something a little bit more spicy.
Remember, the Ryze could go top.
It is true. It is an option. That could be the counter pick to the Urgot.
It would be a lot of AP damage, though, on the side of G2. Wow.
It's AP versus AD.
So I'm really not a fan of this draft from the side of G2. It is very squishy. You're very reliant on Perkz getting ahead. Jankos is going to have to be so proactive in the early game, and like Infinity just, they can match it. Urgot is extremely strong. It's a lane that you can look to play around in the early game. Very little mobility on the side of the Ryze. You also have a strong 2v2 with SolidSnake and Cotopaco. I think Infinity have a really good draft here. Like they...
Vedius, all right, you like the Infinity one.
Yeah.
But before we talk about Infinity, I do want to hit that G2 Esports, because you're like, I don't like what's going on, but if they're gonna win with it, tell me what they have to do.
Well, I mean, you have to get Perkz ahead on the LeBlanc. You need this guy to have an advantage because in terms of the late game, it is so heavily in the favor of Infinity. Their team fighting is so strong. Irelia, Urgot, Kai'Sa, Taric as well. Like, the ability to just run down onto the backline too. Like, when Kai'Sa ults in, what does she have to be afraid of? She has the Taric stun that's sitting on top of her.
I forgot about that combo.
Yeah,
I was thinking about the Olaf. I forgot about that combo.
Like, Olaf runs in, and then you have a Kai'Sa follow up immediately. Both of them have a Taric ultimate on top of them. Like, I don't know. I don't know. I really don't like this draft from G2. Like, Infinity should feel really confident coming into this.
But you've set the stakes, Vedius. You set them well, because now we know where to look in the early game. It's about early game advantages. It's about G2 snowballing a lead. And it gets scary, because everyone on the top side of the map for G2 is magic damage. Urgot gets a little bit of MR. He becomes this unkillable monster.
So I will say that I think that for the first time in this series, Hjarnan and Wadid have a winning pushing bot lane with the Jhin Alistar. They already showcased against Zygnot and Snowflower that when they get their hands on the Jhin, they can generate a lot of pressure. So I think having this comfort bot lane is good for G2, but putting all this pressure on Perkz, we heard it from the analyst desk, he didn't have the best game 3. His impact throughout this series has not been amazing. We think back to game 1 where he flashed into a wall, game 2 where he brought out the Malzahar while he was like, he had a pretty solid performance on the Malzahar, I will give him that. But like, we haven't seen him be carry Perkz so far in this series. It has been the Wunder show and honestly the Hjarnan show in these late game fights. And now Wunder's on Ryze, a champion that I do not associate with this player at all. I'm just looking at Infinity, I'm like, Infinity are really happy with this draft. Cotopaco's been playing really well this series. SolidSnake is on a jungler that's even stronger in terms of the early skirmishing. The bot lane is probably going to struggle in terms of the 2 versus 2, but they don't need to play around bot lane, just let them farm.
And I think, Vedius, the interesting thing here is that we've seen Wunder be so successful across the series, so incredibly successful. And the question for any G2 fan watching right now is, can he do it again? Because across all 3 of the first games, Wunder was pretty fantastic on an individual level and really just kind of outplayed the opposition. Is he going to have a similar effect here on Ryze in the early game?
Well, I mean, in the early game, he'll just farm. I mean, I think it's a pretty safe matchup. Ryze typically lanes well into anyone because his lane clear is pretty good and his ability to trade is pretty good, but you can see that Wunder has been the big carry of the day. His damage per minute is very solid, but the gold difference at 15 is the insane part. The fact that he's built such massive lane leads just goes to show how big of a carry top lane he really is.
Cotopaco, though, going once in. Perkz
could die.
The thing you have to respect is level 2 from Irelia. She has her passive fully stacked, and she can keep it up. Things look good, but Perkz goes in right as it falls off.
I didn't realize the Q is up from Cotopaco the moment he has his passive fully stacked. All right, Perkz got level 2, though, so that kill threat goes down a lot.
Ooh, missed the reset. Perkz is now going to go in on that. Stun comes out.
All right, so Perkz is fine. We got a little hypey there. We need to calm down.
Sorry. Irelia level 2 is like, I've seen so many people die to Irelia level 2 in professional play that I'm like always ready, at a moment's notice, Betty, to start shouting. Not going to be necessary here. And interestingly enough, we expected Hjarnan would need to win out on the early push, for now, at least in the early levels.
I mean, it's probably fine, right? Because I don't exactly remember who started where, and I'm going to assume that Hjarnan started by giving a blue to his jungler, which is why they're probably just a little bit behind in terms of the early levels.
He did.
Yeah, so it's just because the bot lane of Infinity got to lane first, that's why they have that push. Meanwhile, the Ryze is getting pushed in, like you just kind of expect that against Urgot these days. He just pushes in pretty much all the matchups. But in terms of how this early game is going to go, again, the focus kind of falls towards G2. It's on them to find these early leads. Now that doesn't mean that within the first 5 minutes of the game, they have to have like 8 kills, right? That's not what I mean. When I talk about early game leads, like LeBlanc is a really good example of once you've got Luden's Echo, that is when you should be trying to get a couple kills. That is, to me, the kind of benchmark where I say, okay, this is the kind of point in the game. And usually you complete it about 11 to 12 minutes into the game. So if you get that item early, that's great. But once you have it, that's when I want to see you actually being proactive on the map, roaming around, trying to force plays, etc., etc. And I don't know, I just feel like Irelia is a fine matchup into the LeBlanc, largely because of the damage reduction and because of how much mobility you have and the ability to be aggressive, I think that Olaf plus Irelia is also a really scary duo. I don't know. I've criticized the G2 draft a lot. Let's see how things play out right now.
We can wait and watch it unfold. For now, Perkz seems to be doing fine. He's missed a few CS in this laning phase. He's, you know, you're kind of constantly playing on the edge in this matchup because you both have kill pressure on each other, and it just feels like either one is waiting for a misstep. And in the meantime, we check in on the rest of the lanes. Wunder not pulling ahead quite as quickly as he may have in the previous matchups. Not quite as comfortable, you imagine, in this matchup as he is against the Urgot Aatrox, which he's played a million times. And now, there's a surprise Olaf on the top side of the map.
Probably not going to get much because I wouldn't be surprised if Wunder backs now to buy Taliyah and then goes, you know, TP's back in. Yeah, that's what I thought. So,
but if he TP's on the minion, SolidSnake's going to wait. It feels like he's going to commit.
That's a good shout, actually. Because if he does TP onto that minion...
Oh, that's why Relic's backing off.
Okay.
Tower. Jankos is here, though. We could see the 2v2 very early on, Vedius.
I don't think we will. Like, Ryze, you don't really want to gank for a Ryze because he just wants to farm. Okay.
Oh, but you do want to gank for the Ryze. Vedius leaping in. Wunder now trying to make it out to safety. Flash burned.
Damn.
Forced out. SolidSnake ready to play. Finger on the trigger for both Relic and SolidSnake.
He just flashed in and goes for the hyper-aggressive E there on Relic. He does land the flip back. But they aren't quite able to get the kill down onto Wunder. You're laughing at my use of the word flip back.
I'm laughing because I know it means you don't know if it's the E or the W.
It was the E, it was the E.
The flip back was used well. Now, continuing forward, Cotopaco, though, not getting the beneficial end of these trades. And Wadid now roaming into the mid lane to snag a cannon creep. You gotta respect that. Perkz, though, could be in a bit of a tough spot. Level 6 comes in, trying to burn down Cotopaco, not even worried about the Olaf Ignite. Still ticking. First blood for Perkz. They were all sitting there. That was a gentleman's agreement. Nobody was hitting anybody.
Drafting gods, drafting gods. G2 knew all along. Perkz the carry. All right, so he finds a solo kill onto Cotopaco. This is huge. We said it again. G2 need to find an early game lead. Getting a solo kill is a great way to get an early game lead. So really impressed there from Perkz. Is able to shut it down, and now G2 may look for a dive.
Indeed waiting. Taric's off to the side, but Jankos is here as well. Jankos only level 4.
Damage.
Arce there. Spawns with Ryu. May buy a bit of time. TP being burned. Ryu so incredibly low. 4 shot is there. TP not completed. This means they're just going to continue on the dive. I think he had to use it there. 4 shot goes in. Renyu going to flash out to safety. Jankos going to try to burn him out. He's running as fast as he can. Stun up for Jankos. Good damage back. Flash and the heal over the wall to live. Wadid taking so much in exchange. Not going to be enough. 4 shot there for Hjarnan just to stop them from making any more plays, but disaster averted from the side of Infinity.
But a lot of action happening early on, and now again
Stun
in
connects,
oh
misses
no!
the ult,
Cotopaco isn't quite able to land it. Oh, but SolidSnake has found Jankos.
Level 6 to level 4. Jankos just dies.
Easy pickup there for SolidSnake. He's able to punish the fact that Jankos has no flash. Ace of Predator replay going to be brought to you in the middle lane as Perkz goes for that solo kill down on the Cotopaco. Gets to level 6, is able to proc the electrocute as well. Just basically lands the W into ult. Very easy combo from the LeBlanc. And we'll shut him down.
Perkz building up a substantial CS lead. Wunder doing what he can to stay even with the Urgot on the top side. A much more even matchup this time around, but just an explosive game already, Vedius.
Yeah, exactly that. Very exciting. I'm already having a lot of fun. You know, we criticize the G2 draft, but it's definitely resulting in a lot of early game action. And so far, the LeBlanc is sitting on 1 kill, but Jankos very far behind on this Taliyah. He tried to make the bot lane dive happen. They couldn't quite pull it off. It was actually G2 who ended up coming out short in terms of the summoner spell trade. Look, Wadid has no summoners, Hjarnan has no heal, Jankos lost his flash, and all it cost Renyu was his flash. So they end up coming out onto, oh, of course, Arce did use his heal as well, but he has the spell book, so he's now sitting on an ignite. So that is fair. It was a 2 for 3 for summoner spell trade. Now Wunder in trouble.
Wunder running for his life. There's the ulti from the Urgot, though. Feels like it's a little bit early, forcing out the Realm Warp. Wunder now on the retreat. A lot of pressure here on the top side. No mana for the Ryze and no TP, which means Jankos may have to commit here to stop anything from going down. Relic, though, don't know if he's confident enough to go for the push.
Really like these ganks from SolidSnake though up towards the top side of the map. He's really trying to help Relic out. And again, we talked a lot about how Wunder's been the big carry of this series, and so they're trying to shut him down. Infinity really just shifting their priorities rather than focusing towards the bot of the mid lane. Like, okay, We've camped bot, we've camped Perkz. Now it's time to camp Wunder and see how he handles the pressure.
One camp at a time. Perkz, though, doing much better in this matchup in the mid lane. Getting that kill early on sets him up with the Lost Chapter. Still a little bit of ways off the Luden. Kind of that power spike you mentioned is a big point to watch out for. But playing much more confidently with a kill under his belt. 64 CS for Cotopaco, going up against Perkz' 79.
Things still looking pretty good for both sides. Cotopaco all in.
Stun, chain CC locked together. The Ignite taken down on Perkz. Cotopaco, though, may have overstayed. Jankos just there to dissuade the play, but good little bit of aggression.
Out. That was a good play there from Cotopaco. Bit of an all-in and bot.
New ulti now going to be burned. They want to turn this one if they're going to go for it. One stack on Hjarnan means Renyu can re-engage. They're focusing on Wadid for now, but getting that Taric ultimate is crucial. Jankos on the way down. He's going to run face first to that Olaf. Has caught up in experience, though.
SolidSnake been investing in a couple more ganks, which has allowed Jankos to farm through the jungle. But reactionary ultimate there from Arce. The cooldown is pretty long at early levels.
Hex flash.
Hex flash.
Headbutt pull. Jankos is here. Flash out. Chain CC will not connect.
Both junglers getting heavily involved in this early game. Arce, good flash there to avoid potentially losing his life. We'll keep this bot lane pretty even for the time. I say that Hjarnan sitting at a pretty healthy CS lead with the Jhin. We did talk about in the draft that it's kind of the first time this series that he's had a winning matchup and hasn't forced to deal with some of the really aggressive stuff that both Arce and Renyu have been bringing out.
Is absolutely the case. SolidSnake, though. Gonna catch. Perkz is there. Stun does connect. Perkz is gonna dash over the wall, however.
No flash.
Over. No hesitation. Perkz is immediately gonna get cut down, but the heal is there to back him up. Unstoppable, but burning, slowly ticking. Hjarnan with the 4-shot. Where's it gonna go? Doesn't need it. Perkz takes it in the end. Corrupting potion, red buff even, to bring it home.
I like the confidence there from SolidSnake. It looked like he was doing a lot of damage, but a really good heal from Hjarnan combined with the passive of LeBlanc is what kept him alive. Now Cotopaco.
Perkz is the tasty bait right now. Cotopaco does not follow up, though. Good call as Jankos is waiting there to punish.
Jankos should stick around and help him clear out this wave so that Perkz can go back to base. There we go.
Connects. Cooldown's all burnt. Cotopaco sidesteps, but not willing to commit onto Jankos. Has the flash available and is just doing his due diligence to hold on to it. Does want to use that advantage at some point, but for now he's doing fine. And G2 steadily building up advantages on the bottom side. Hjarnan's still not going to get hit by that stun.
Slowly chipping away at this tower. Infinity, remember, for them, it's not that important that they find a bunch of early kills or a huge early lead. All they care really about is stopping LeBlanc getting ahead. Now, it's a little unfortunate for them that Perkz is sitting at 2-0 and 0. It will give G2 a very solid mid-game, but Infinity are all about the team fights this time around. The Kai'Sa, the Irelia, two very good team fight champs that are paired up with Taric, who's a really good anti-team fight champ. And they have an Olaf there to act as kind of their pseudo-engage, and they have the Urgot that can set up some nice flanks with the Righteous Glory too. So I really like the 5v5 from Infinity, and I think, again, they play towards their strengths, which are...
No, flash over. Need the body block. And they can burn the ulti as well. Wunder on the hunt here. Jankos moving forward as well. The flash forward. Now going to try to land the stun. Uses the ulti to make it to safety. Renyu is going to make it out, but meanwhile, Cotopaco in the mid lane trying to pick his targets, but Perkz is moving a little bit too quickly for him. Now on the retreat, they'll spot him leaving, but Olaf is in the mid lane. Has it available. There's the Herald that he picked up just moments ago. Infinity looking to break the mid lane tower, but still, G2 are the ones who are going to get tower first blood on the bottom side of the map.
We're still seeing, though, once again, why this Irelia is not a bad matchup into the LeBlanc. You land that stun and you can just glue to her and really out DPS her with your passive. The consistent damage is more than enough, and now Renyu has even TP'd into the mid lane, and that's sieging onto this tier 2.
Threatening with a single use of the Flawless Duet, ready to throw out the second one. Move forward onto Perkz, doesn't want to risk anything. Relic is on the way in. Perkz could potentially be in trouble, but Wadid is on the way in. That's enough damage. Shut down with the Void Seeker. 2 towers blown up in an instant from Infinity. They are on the road to taking us to a game 5.
And look at the goal difference right now. It is dead even. Infinity are making such confident plays, securing a very early Rift Herald into a good outplay from Cotopaco onto Perkz, has allowed them to get 2 mid lane towers rather, and an Infernal Drake. Infinity coming up huge in game 4.
You want a team fight in the late game, you are darn happy to see that Infernal Drake Vedius, and we look at this, it's starting to look a lot like game 1. This time it's Hjarnan building up that massive lane lead, that CS advantage, but it's Infinity who are coming out ahead in objectives again. Gotta wonder if G2 are nervous. They've been here before. They did not win the game where they won the lanes but weren't able to transition it. And Vedius, you were critical of the draft. Hasn't been a factor yet, but if G2 start to fall behind, it feels like it could be.
I mean, I feel like it kind of has been, because we talked about how when you pick this LeBlanc, knowing who the matchup is, it should be a lane that you dominate. And yes, he managed to find a solo kill, but he also got pushed out of lane twice. And this time round, he died. And so the fact that we talked about the 2v2 strength of SolidSnake and Cotopaco, Olaf, Irelia, all they had to do was group mid and push. There's not enough wave clear on the side of G2. And I think it's just Infinity recognizing, you know, we're stronger. Like, only our bot lane is weaker at this point. We have pressure top, we have pressure mid. It's really easy for us to force plays across the map, and they're doing it. And I love this proactivity for Infinity. And I think it's punishing what was a pretty greedy draft from G2.
And now you see Perkz put in a side lane just to collect some farm as Wunder sent to the mid lane. Sadly, for G2, there's a Hex Drinker already in the inventory of Relic. He was already in a magic damage matchup, so Perkz may struggle to make a greater impact here.
He's also gone for a Seeker's Arm Guard. That is the worst feeling ever as a LeBlanc. When you get a solo kill in lane and you're forced to build defensively before you even complete your first major item. That is not what you want as an assassin. And that just, you need to give props to Cotopaco for, even after dying, being able to generate so much 1v1 pressure.
Cotopaco now looking for that hunting for that opportunity. Trying to find a kill potentially on the bottom side of the map, but will settle into the mid lane. Wunder's doing a similar thing, pushing out and looking for somewhere he can realm warp. Ulti not quite available yet, but when it is, may try to make a play into the side lane. Cotopaco finds the stun, will commit, now going to use the ultimate as well. Wunder's going to flash for the wall, but Cotopaco very much on the hunt, continues to auto. Passive fully stacked, Wunder now running, trying to buy a bit more time. Phase rush is there, Cotopaco, what else have you got? Ward over the wall, not going to commit. Now the TP comes in on the top side, Relic going to commit onto Wadid. He's left all on his lonesome. They see the pressure point, they see the weakness, and it is Wadid, and they take him down.
And Infinity find themselves another kill. TP comes in from Relic towards the top side of the map. Jankos ends up dropping as well. I didn't even notice that one. And Infinity doing so well in this early game. G2 are not finding the early game advantages that they want. Towers are continuing to drop across the board. Infinity fighting back hard in game 4.
In game 1, Vedius, they had 3 towers. It was fine, but they did not have a gold lead. Here, they're approaching 1.5K at this stage of the game, and you look back at how this happened, you have to wonder who overstepped.
So, Olaf, doing Olaf things. We talked about how he's a great matchup into the Taliyah, and you can see one of the reasons why. Once he throws that ultimate down, it's extremely easy for him to chase the champion. She doesn't have enough to be able to kite him back. And then he didn't have his flash available, so he was next to fall. Really good awareness there from Infinity to just dive onto the 3 members of G2 and knowing that they would be able to come out on top.
Now G2 just continuing to try to match the tempo, try to take down some of these outer turrets. Looks like they are going to be able to do so. 3 members strong, but a single minion left standing. Arce here to threaten. G2 may have to back off, but the wave is there to back him up, and Perkz just constantly threatening Renyu. A lot of damage laid down. The snare is going to connect. Arce now trying to peel the rest of the team off. Waiting on those cooldowns. Renyu has to run the Taric, maybe the sacrificial lamb, but SolidSnake here to turn it around. Cotopaco over the wall, but he's in the middle of 5 members of the team. All but set to die here. Cotopaco giving up his life for nothing. G2 with the pick. Realm Warp now coming up. They want to extend this play. They know this is their advantage. Wunder looking to lock him up. Wunder looking to get something done. Arce may need to commit the ult here. Not going to use it.
So G2, they only picked up 1 kill, burnt a lot of summoner spells from the bot lane of Infinity. And they only find themselves 1 tower up top as well, but Infinity are able to trade that on the other side of the map, so still feeling confident for Infinity. Relic looking good on this Urgot, has now got himself a CS advantage over Wunder. And now SolidSnake is chasing in.
Ooh, using the Predator, forcing the team back. Not going to take the creep wave, though.
Nice guy.
Is Tar going to be able to block it, though? Oh, no, he's coming back. He's coming back for the creep wave. Jungler's out there, do not worry. This man has taken all that farm for the Olaf. And Vedius, I want to check in on the team compositions once again, because the good news for Infinity and for G2 is they each have they have 2 damage types, 80 carries making up one of them, the rest of the map making up the other. But you can see Adaptive Helm's already coming in quick, and for a Ryze, a Taliyah, and even to a certain degree a LeBlanc, that item is just going to mitigate so much of what G2 want to do.
Yeah. I mean, magic resistance is great against burst champions, fun fact. And when there are so many burst champs on the side of G2, magic resistance is extremely valuable. I feel like Hjarnan's going to have to be the big carry of this game. A lot of the pressure is going to fall onto him. He's doing really well on the Jhin so far, has completed 2 major items, and he had a great Kai'Sa game, or he's had great Kai'Sa games so far this series. Like, we only have to think back to Game 3 where both he and Wunder, alongside the support of Wadid, were able to turn a 3v5 in their favor.
Very much the case.
But now he doesn't have Wunder on a big tank frame line. His jungler is behind. So it's going to be that much harder for him to carry, but he's the player I'm looking at to be able to turn this one around for G2.
Infinity grouped up as 5, ready to force a fight. Perkz looking for a flank onto the side. They've got a Renyu, SolidSnake. Where's the Taric ultimate going to go? Cotopaco going to find the stun onto Wadid, forcing it now. Immediately trying to use the ult to lock the members. Proactive use of the Taric ult, stopping any recourse on the opposite side. Relic bringing the cow right into the chest. A little ground beef. Get them started before they turn on that Drake.
And what do they do in this 5v5? Like, Infinity can feel so confident just grouping up and forcing it because they have the quintessential teamfight comp, tanks and damage, and enough mobility to follow it up.
Relic hits that disdain. Well played, and now Perkz trying to get a kill. Rest of G2 now pushing in. The CC is there, but the damage just isn't. Infernal and a Mountain for Infinity. Ideal setup on the Drakes. Flash forward, he's going to pull Wunder back to the team there. Now I want to continue this one. SolidSnake running in, zoning Perkz out. Wunder going to die as Renyu runs in for the kill. Can't quite get it. Wunder running for his life. Realm Warp, the heal, the axe not going to connect. I can't believe it. Wunder just barely manages to escape.
And another great heal coming out from Hjarnan, but Infinity doing what they've done throughout this game and just forcing fights onto G2. They know that they are stronger. They know that G2 have no answers. Their LeBlanc is not strong enough to carry them in these fights. And so every time they see an opportunity, they just charge straight towards the faces of G2.
And look at that goal difference, 20 minutes. Every other game, even the game they won, they were so far behind on average. This game, it's a different story, Vedius.
And Relic with the flash into knockback. This is something we saw him do earlier in this game, and Renyu, he just thought he was dead. He thought he had enough damage. He should have secured the kill there. He made a mistake, and then the heal comes through clutch from Hjarnan, so the axe doesn't secure the kill. He ends up getting away with his life.
Gotta love the reactions in the stadium. Oh, really everything burned to like try to make that happen. Just did not work out. But you can see Infinity clearly in control of the tempo of this game, and how lost G2 look. All right, we're gonna take a second. All the Irelia fans out there, that 6 seconds was for you.
He did mess up a little bit.
You run it back. You play it before you go to bed. Irelia mains, enjoy that. The rest of us probably just frustrated that she's allowed to do that. But Hjarnan continues to move in.
So, I'd also like to say that G2 maybe have the Baron as a win condition, but they don't. Their Baron is really slow with a Jhin and 3 mages. They have no one that can tank it either, so they can't even use Baron as a pressure point. Whereas Infinity, they can start Baron whenever they want. And they have Urgot to tank it up, and they have means of starting fights around it too. So, well, like, the more I look at this composition, I'm like, how can G2 potentially come back into this game? It's all about just trying to find picks. You know, trying to punish people who are out of position from the side of Infinity. But Infinity never have to do that. They can just group up because their teamfight comp is so solid. They just need to keep these sideways pushed out, and then they can just siege. Or sieging maybe not the best setup because their range is pretty short, but they just need to group up and force objectives.
And they are remaining mostly grouped, a single pusher on the side lane for both teams. Perkz versus Cotopaco continuing in the side lane. You know, Perkz' good score kind of balanced out by the massive CS lead of Cotopaco. And Vedius, you know, we checking across the board. You were critical of the draft at the start, and it looks like a lot of the concerns coming true is G2 have not been able to snowball, not been able to set up kind of maybe the 1-3-1 you'd expect from a Ryze LeBlanc. And if they're forced to group, difficult situation.
That's another point, right? I actually haven't talked about the ability to 1-3-1 at all. They're also weaker on side lanes. Like, Perkz can't 1v1 Cotopaco, and Ryze can't 1v1 Relic because he has both. He has 2 magic resist items plus Merc Treads. Like, the best Wunder can do is just wave clear. He'll get the Void Staff 3rd item, and that'll help a lot, but yeah, like, I don't know. I have no answers. I think this is so far, Infinity are playing this really cleanly, and as long as they don't make any major mistakes, they they should take us to a game 5 based on how the game is progressing. Like, they have a healthy gold lead. They have pressure on both sides. I mean, of course, forcing the Baron is risky, but I think they can just use it to create a fight situation. And as long as they go for a 5v5, in my eyes, they should be able to come out ahead.
Looking across, we're kind of waiting for that bigger point. You talked about needing an objective. Kind of Infinity, they can't siege, but if they send 5 members to a Baron, to a Dragon, G2 either have to give it up or fight for it. If they try to fight, well, we know Infinity has the advantage. Now just waiting for Baron to become a bigger factor. Infinity finally setting up the vision, doing their due diligence with a bit of mid-pressure to clear out vision. When are they going to go for it, though, or do they just want to wait to scale up further?
I think Infinity, if they wanted to, could be a little more proactive. Maybe they were waiting for the Starks to be completed for Cotopaco, and now that he's back on the map, you imagine he'll go up top, push that out, and then they'll try and force something. We'll see. Here we go.
He's going to come out. Kai's going to leap in with the ultimate. Not taking too much damage there. Wadid potentially going to be in trouble, but a lot of cooldowns burned and nothing to show for it. Hjarnan's still alive. Relic throwing out the ultimate, not going to connect either. That is the best G2 could have hoped for. A little bit of an executional fumble there from Infinity, forcing out some flashes, some summoner spells, but burning so much in exchange.
Yeah, exactly that. I feel like that the Infinity engage was a little haphazard there. All the pieces weren't quite in place. But you are right, they were able to get the summoner spells out from Hjarnan, which is a big deal because he doesn't have those escapes, which means that when Infinity dive on top of him, it'll be that much easier to lock him down and find that kill. Again though, Hjarnan farming extremely well, level 14. 293 CS, almost completed his 3rd major item. If anyone is going to find a way back into the game for G2, it will be him. And now G2 looking for a pick.
Renyu's going to give him the respect, though, with that flash. And one thing I think we always have to remember is that Perkz has had his back against the wall before. We look back on some of those moments where G2 found themselves in a game 5, Splice, quarterfinals. Last year, Perkz in a final game, won Casual, deciding it, turning it when the pressure was on. And really, G2 are hoping for a performance like that to stop Infinity from taking it to a game 5. One of those clutch moments from one of the most veteran players on the team.
So Dragon has now respawned. And Infinity, I think this is a really good objective for them to play around. You'll notice that they've dropped a couple wards around the Baron as well, so that they can still see what's going on in this area of the map. But the Ocean Drake is a really good objective to pick up, especially when you already have the Infernal and Mountain. And you should be able to clear it out relatively quickly. So I think it's just, if nothing else, you'll get G2 to come and challenge you for it, which I imagine they won't.
I mean, we talked about it, right? We can see how much better Infinity should be functioning in a team fight. G2 are probably painfully aware of it as well. You saw them running in that last play, knowing that they were on the back foot. Vedius, as predicted, G2 not going to come and contest it, just giving that one away.
It's just the setup is really good for Infinity. I really like that they invested the wards into Baron first. That's a really crucial step, because if they just rushed Drake, then you would have left Baron exposed, it would have been in fog of war, and then you have to face check Baron against G2, which is always dangerous face checking. So by doing this, what they do is G2 then has to clear all the vision out, Infinity have full knowledge of where they are, and they secure the Drake without actually losing the Baron itself. So now they can just reset. Infinity can just clear out all these waves, push them out, drop a couple vision, spend the gold that they've picked up, and then look to set up the Baron relatively soon. I think they're waiting right now for Renyu to finish his 3rd item. Or maybe they just want to show G2, because they know they outscaled. So perhaps they don't feel the need to force anything right now.
Yeah, waiting patiently. Get those item spikes, as you mentioned. We'll see if it's a Banshees or an Hourglass that'll come in from Renyu on the back of that Phoenix Codex. Just now clearing out the jungle. Picking up the red buff and ready for a fight to come. Once again, the battle of vision around Baron. We saw it last game. We're going to see it again this time around. Perkz proccing a bit of aggro just to both check the pit and to give Relic a little bit of pain to deal with. Vedius last game, we saw just a brilliant Baron play from Infinity, and it was an overstep that cost them the game. But when they have this kind of lead, when they're continuing to build up this team fight advantage through their composition, it feels like it's going to be hard for G2 to get that same kind of miracle turnaround without the Urgot on their side.
Cha. You are correct.
All right.
I feel like this is the kind of narrative we've been setting up all game long, right? Which is very much G2 needs to get another game lead. They had a pushing bot, and if if they had translated Perkz solo kill into something more, like perhaps permagang from Cotopaco or just shutting him out of the game, then they could have used the advantage bot and mid in order to turn it into a snowball. In that situation, I could have seen a way in which G2 won, but they made a couple of fumbles, Infinity found a couple of favorable fights, and then the game slowed down rapidly, and now they've just been scaling, ramping up. And these third items being worked on, 3 items have in fact been finished for Relic.
Ghost now burned. Immediately goes in onto Perkz, forces Perkz out of the fight. The Taric ulti comes out, but they're going to burn him down before he gets a chance. Perkz goes back and immediately in, looking for the opportunity. Pulled back in the middle of the team, though that is the fear. Cotopaco now on the hunt for Wunder, wants to bring it back. The stuns are connecting. Jankos is getting cut through, but Hjarnan remains untouched. The 80 carry gone means Hjarnan may be able to turn this. The double, though, dropping in the meantime. Infinity desperate to turn this one back, but they've already lost the fight. The 80 carry is up. The curtains are here, and he's looking to call him right down onto the front line of Infinity. Force shot going to connect. Has 2 more in the barrel, wants to take down. Relic wants to get this kill back, but it's just not going to happen. Hjarnan with a beautiful turnaround. Wunder, they need to take this. Cotopaco, I don't know if he can outplay this one. The snare, the point and click, he takes him down. That's the double for Wunder. A beautiful turn for G2.
And G2 actually win the team fight. It all comes off the back of Jankos landing that clutch spell onto Renyu and finding a very early kill onto the Infinity 80 carry. So much of the damage disappeared while Hjarnan was left untouched. So keep your eyes on Renyu throughout this entire fight. He dives on the Perkz, gets stunned up by Wadid, into the knockback, into the Perkz execute. Beautifully done by G2, and starting the fight off like this is the best case scenario because Perkz, he's done his job. The 80 carry is dead. Now Hjarnan can come into his own, combined with Wunder, doing exactly what they did last time. Their consistent damage output between the two of them was monumental in being able to win out on this fight. The positioning from Hjarnan was great. And Cotopaco, he does his best. You know, he wasn't expecting the flash in from Relic. If Relic had been a little more patient, maybe together they would have been able to win out on this fight, but it wasn't enough. G2 win the fight, and they're keeping themselves alive in this game.
And Betty, as you look back on it, MR is the name of the game for that Urgot on the top side. When Jhin is the one left alive in a team fight, he's going to rip through the team, and Ryze as well. So much sustained damage between these two champions. They burn everything for Perkz. Perkz is behind, man.
Hjarnan had to be the carry for this team in these late game fights, and he's doing it. But again, no, you've got to credit Wunder too. He was no slouch in that fight, matching the Jhin damage as well. G2, even though I'm not a fan of their comp, they have showcased that in the right hands, you can pull off the unbelievable. But here we go, Infinity starting off the Baron. Teleport is available for Wunder and the top laner.
Jankos is here, can throw a lot of damage down on the pit. 5K getting lower. SolidSnake wants to take this one down. Jankos is nowhere in the nearby area. Taric ulti going to be used. They need to make it out of the pit as quickly as humanly possible. Both top laners TPing in now. Relic in the middle. Perkz trying to find his way into the back line, but he takes so much damage back. He chases a beautiful Irelia ult. Dash through, pulled back. There's the fear. There's the reset. Oh my god! They're cutting through G2. Jankos can't even find a way out. Infinity destroy G2.
And this is what we were expecting from Infinity. They just kick the Baron off. They melt through it before G2 can react and instantly turn it into a huge team fight in their favor. Renyu did not get one shot this time around. Perkz was the one who got chunked out. Hjarnan couldn't escape. And now it is Infinity with the Baron and the base of G2 in their eye.
Pushing in, they commit the TP from the 80 carry to keep it going. They want to keep the tempo up. They want to catch Perkz out, and they want to end it here. I don't think they have enough time on this one, but they will at least break the inhibitor line. Will they commit for the following fight? They don't have major cooldowns. Taric ulti slowly but surely on the way as he gets those autos in. Not going to find anything else here, but big shift in this game. Perkz trying to hunt, trying to find an isolated member. Not going to happen yet, and 5K gold lead, Vedius.
Great stuff for Infinity. This is the kind of play that we were talking a lot about and wondering when it was going to happen. After they lost the fight, they just decided, let's go. They took it down so quickly before G2 even had an opportunity to react. And look at Perkz, he tries to dive into the backline, barely does any damage, gets chunked out. The Alistar melts, and then the fear that he generates is enough to allow Infinity to get the collapse down onto the 2 remaining members. Now, G2 are able to get to the Infernal Drakes
first. Wants to
first.
steal it, not going to be able to get it. Now he's locked himself in the pit in a bit of a tough spot here, but Renyu is pushing it, can't afford to go too far. Ulti's not going to connect from the Urgot, but they're chasing him down anyway. Wadid going to give up his life here in the exchange. G2 on the back foot, Predator now burned. Losing that member, though, is going to be tough. G2 can no longer find the counter engage up against Infinity. It would take a miracle, so Pressure's going to continue. They may be able to break another inhibitor here. G2 putting themselves in a tough position. Felt like they had to take that Infernal.
I mean, they got it, but they lost their bot lane, and now they're going to lose the inhibitor as well. The base is exposed. Infinity on track to taking us to a game 5. The Nexus is in their eyes.
So many people would have chalked up game 1 to a slip-up, Vedius. A small mistake. This game as well, though. Infinity proving they can go toe-to-toe with G2. Perkz looking to change everyone's mind here, though. Not going to be able to find an aggressive play. Infinity backing off. Going to look for the same slow and steady closeout that G2 gave them in the previous match.
I mean, you can't take anything away from Infinity, right? Like, sure, I threw a lot of criticism towards G2 and the way in which they drafted and the way in which they're playing, but Infinity, they had very clear win conditions. The moment they got to the item spikes they were comfortable with, they went straight to the Baron, they pulled off a beautiful team fight, and now they're closing this game out very cleanly. Cotopaco has come up huge in this game and has really outperformed Perkz. They are on track to take us to a game 5 as G2 look for that last-ditch effort team fight.
Perkz, that was definitely a misclick. He did not want to go back into the middle of that team. Now comes the Taric ultimate. Urgot going forward. A little more damage he's going to be able to take on Perkz. Shut down onto Cotopaco. Wunder now wants to turn it. This is the second time Infinity have been trying to fight under the tower, and it is the second time G2 will look to rout them for their mistakes. Infinity backing off. Relic going to go down here. The GA procced. No other options as Perkz just continues the hunt. Taken out in the end. Not a single member dropping on the side of G2. Tower living as well. Perkz wants to continue the push. The super minions are there on the top side. Slowly working their way through.
Okay, so I cast the curse in there. Just when I praise them, they get a bad team fight. Oh, SolidSnake! What are you doing?
He's gonna give his life here, but Hjarnan's already back. Predator's there. Perkz just gonna take his time with this one. Is he fast enough? Realmore coming in. He may have killed Renyu as well. He's just gonna get knocked up and taken out. G2! Kill everybody!
Oh, but they do end up losing both towers. Hjarnan's wave clear is not enough, so Infinity, they lose a number of members, but G2 can't get anything off the back of this, so the net gain still goes in favor of Infinity. Awful team fight on the side of Infinity. They tried to dive G2. They still need to show respect the amount of damage output that this composition has. And while it could have ended much worse for Infinity, they end up making the most of it. The minions doing some serious work in the base. Let's have a look back at how this one kicks off. So it ends up being Perkz going in. This was a big misplay from him. Jumping back in, he does have the Zhonya's. The Taric ultimate comes out very early on, so they use this to try and die, but Cotopaco, he doesn't get the Taric ultimate. So he ends up dying extremely quickly. Then Renyu, the only person he can hit is Wadid, and he's forced out of the fight right off the back of that.
And Vedius, you can watch the rest of that play, you can see all the people die, and this is the second time this series that Infinity have randomly tried to dive a tower. And
yes,
they missed the Taric ult on the Irelia. The Irelia missed her own ult, and then they continued, and it just feels like Infinity have the win in their hands in that instant, and they just have to chill out. But when they say go, they go, man. There is no other option.
I mean, that's the thing. These guys are confident players, and you could see if Cotopaco had the Taric ultimate, maybe it's a different kind of fight, but he goes a little bit too early, and as you rightly said, they didn't have to force it. They could have been so patient. They just had to wait for the super minions in the other lanes to push through, and instead, they go for the dive, but still, they are the ones with the overwhelming advantage. They're looking for one more fight to end the game. The Nexus is exposed, and G2 are pushed to the very brink of going to a game 5.
Infinity can already hear the Silver Scrapes playing in their head, and G2 are just praying it's not true. Perkz laying down what poke he can, taking a lot back in exchange. Hjarnan not fearless. That is a fast Jhin running in and out of the back line. Disarmed now, though the Irelia ulti not going to land much effect. Burning the Ghost as well. G2 weaving in and out of that fight, not giving Infinity the option to go in.
The inhibitor has respawned in the top lane. Now G2 only have to wave clear mid. The Baron is spawning in 45 seconds. If G2 can steal this one away, maybe they can turn this one around. The goal is still relatively close. The kill score is the same. And Hjarnan has been doing work in these late game team fights, but based on how the last Baron went, if G2 will clump up in that small choke point, Infinity will just come out on top in the fights.
Oh, Vedius, there's so much tension here. 38 minutes into the game. Set it 13-13. It's an unlucky number, but for who wins out on the next fight? Perkz continuing to harass. poking down the
Those
opposite.
crits from Hjarnan.
Continues to poke, continues to hit. Hjarnan the one doing the damage, Perkz is the one threatening. Infinity now splitting up. Cotopaco looking for the flank, but he's been spotted on the side. Perkz fearless. One mistake here could take him out, but now leaping forward, leaping into Hjarnan. Hjarnan now could be in trouble. The Taric ultimate coming out. Cotopaco on the backside. Unstoppable. They burned so much of the Taric ulti on nothing. G2 have peeled back beautifully and have not gotten anything. And Hjarnan, here come the curtains. Jankos ready to follow up if they can find anything greater. Priority in the mid lane goes to G2, but that is all in the fight.
So this time around, Infinity don't find the initiation that they want. This allows G2 to disengage, wave clear, and actually have control over the Baron. Perkz has even gone back to base, gotten his health back, maybe even spent some gold that he should have picked up. And what G2 need to do now is send Wunder to bot to try and clear out that wave before it gets too big, because Infinity, they know they have that wave and they're going to pressure with this Baron, but it's in complete darkness right now.
Relic needs to get out of here, though. If he goes down, it's going to be disastrous. The team fight, the follow-up from G2 could be everything.
Got the
But the Baron's
Baron.
going to go down. They get it. They need to make their way out now. They cannot afford to die here. Jankos on the side, though, not going to let it happen. Cotopaco running with D, trying to keep the fight going. Wunder on the backside. Everything turning against them. G2 firing back, finding their way back into the game on the back of this fight. Now cleaning up as the double drops for Wunder. Perkz on the side, baiting SolidSnake. Another kill going over in the favor of Hjarnan. Everything falls apart for G2, and Perkz just playing with his food, just buying time as they turn it back.
And when all was lost, when the Nexus was exposed for G2, they somehow find the miraculous fight. And now, with those death timers, G2 could potentially end the game.
He's going for the 1v1 against the jungler. SolidSnake trying, he's trying to get something back. He is going to be allowed to retreat, but he's just hitting a ward. He doesn't
No
have
way
the
are they
time.
doing this.
There's no way. They can just end it here. 18 seconds, 20 seconds, counting down. This is G2's timer to victory. This is their moment. Everything stood against them in this game, from the draft to the execution, but in the final moments, G2 make it count.
Unbelievable. Infinity. They had so much control over that game. The Nexus was exposed. They took one too many bad team fights. And G2 end up coming up clutch. You have to give props to that man on your screen. We said he had to carry. We said this guy's been playing extremely well this game. He has to be able to turn out these late game fights, and he was so pivotal. The amount of damage he was throwing out, his positioning, all came together to allow G2 to find the fourth game, and they will lock in a spot in the group stages at Worlds.
Perkz one step closer to his quest to take down Liquid, as it was in the interview he did most recently. Finally making it to the next stage, the next group stage. We'll see where he gets drawn shortly, but Infinity, that is a tough loss. They went toe-to-toe with one of Europe's best, and they almost forced it to a Game 5.
So close. They did everything. They did so many things right in Game 4. They just took a couple bad fights. They were too over. Like, being over eager was their issue. And like, when was it? They overcommitted in a mid lane fight in like Game 2 or Game 3. They did it again in Game 4, and it's such a shame to see, because this team had so many good plays. Like, Cotopaco had a fantastic performance. Snake had a great job. Like, I was really impressed with what they were able to do, but just one too many mistakes, and G2 were punished.
And it counts against you, and G2 showed up when it counted, when their backs were against the wall in that Game 4. Well, G2 are ready for the group stage. For more on how they did it, here's the State Farm Analyst Desk.
Thank you very much. Congratulations to G2 Esports. But man, that was a frustrating game to watch, and I think it's not very often that I find myself being so conflicted. And obviously, I'm an EULCS representative, so I'm happy that G2 made it. But Infinity had it in their grasp, guys.
They deserve to win that game. Like, throw everything on the table. Until the late game, they did so many of the hard steps. They clean up the draft. The early game looks good. They're able to make things work.
The only thing that I always say
stumble at the line.
There is no deserve in sports. You have to go the full mile, and that's why I think we have to be careful in crediting G2 as well as we credit Infinity for kind of the journey they've showed today. But yeah.
For me, it's not about they deserved it or like G2 played great. Like, Infinity won that game. They had it like from that point on, like 90% chance to win that game, and they threw it, and you could see based off their decision making, like when SolidSnake ran over the blast cone and did nothing with it, And then,
Is that the stress of the moment?
like
for
you can
them?
just see,
Absolutely.
you can see the tunnel, you can see the tilt, and like I think like these kinds of plays that you see them forcing, like they knew they had the better draft. They had a great dive comp against 3 immobile carries. Like they have in tons of magic damage. Like they should have gone off this game, and they just got too overzealous too many times.
But the big thing is if you throw something, someone has to be there to catch it. And multiple times, different members of this G2 lineup able to put team fights on their back. You know, Wunder, not necessarily known for his Ryze, I'm sure, however, had a fantastic game after the mid-game. And Hjarnan, someone that we had been critical of all series long, coming up absolutely massive.
Yeah, throughout the entire game too. Hjarnan crushed laning phase, was up about 60 CS, about a half item over the Kai'Sa, whereas if the Kai'Sa had gotten through fine, those kinds of crazy ults in that the Kai'Sa wants to do would not have gotten punished quite as hard.
And it's even more critical because everyone was buying adaptive helms, no one was buying armor. We were saying as long as they trade down Hjarnan, who shouldn't be able to kite it out, this game is a very easy to execute team comp. However, he kept himself safe and he was able to really weave through those teams.
I mean, and many times throughout the game, you guys said G2's comp is just not fit for fighting against this composition. So, you know, that's why it's such a tricky game to look at. So let's also look at some of the positives from Infinity before we get to the final fight, Mark. I know you're tilted. I see it.
It's just like, it's one of those games where you sound really negative on G2 for saying what happened in this game, but like objectively, Infinity should have won with their team comp, but the amount of times that someone didn't get a Taric ult at the right time, someone went in too soon, that they blew too many cooldowns, like, that's why we talk about it this way, but like, it's important to know that G2 was playing well. Like, this was a comp you couldn't really have seen coming as G2's coach. Like, I don't fault him for getting out-drafted in that sense at all here, and I don't fault the players for struggling in this game because they got out-drafted in that sense, but like, they played really well in the early game to get huge CS leads on G2's side, and that's one of the things that kept them in this game.
Yeah, it certainly did. I mean, if you want to flip it and talk about what Infinity did well during this game, I think that Cotopaco taking the skill matchup once again into the mid lane and showing that he's continued to grow. Perkz got the first blood, and he still looked like he had a fine time in the Irelia versus the LeBlanc. And I think that that is a guy that we'll now start to, you know, look at as these kind of international tournaments come around to continue that journey.
Yeah, I would love to talk about kind of what this now means for both teams. But first, let's wrap up this game. Infinity grabbed a Baron and a winning fight also in the middle of that, which was one of the moments where I thought it would go pretty well for them.
And this is so courageous for a young team coming onto the international stage to, in full vision, say, we are going to take this Baron, we're going to take the fight, and we're going to crack open the game.
Yeah, and you see just with the defensive cooldowns that they have available, how much chase down potential they have. Like, as soon as they get on someone, they're basically dead, and they did a great job converting that into a kill here. The problem was, after that Baron buff, they went to that bot lane push, and Perkz, whether that was intentional or a misclick or what, when he took that W back right in front of the entire enemy team, we all thought he lost his mind, but it was the exact bait that they needed to make Infinity overstep their bounds.
I'm not exactly sure if the next replay is the final fight or the one before that you were mentioning, but let's take a look. In either case, it was one where G2 came back in a position where they shouldn't. Well, actually, no. Relic was out of position.
Yeah, this is one of the times where you could kind of feel the stress getting to them.
Yeah.
You're forcing Baron 5v5 just because G2 kind of had to go back and there's a minion wave coming in and Relic wasn't grouped up. They do a good job collapsing onto him first, killing him, and then making sure they clean up everyone with this Baron buff and do not let them get out. It was a really good job by G2 punishing these mistakes.
And the big thing is like, you're looking at the Summoner spells, you're like, they could have flashed the back wall. There were multiple things they could have done. This is against a Taliyah, this is against a Ryze. Unfortunately, young team had run out of options and G2 had just really worn them down. You could see how mentally taxing this game was becoming as it was getting later and later. And I think that, once again, that's where you credit the veterans. That's where Perkz is the one carryover member from this lineup that has been in a similar situation and was able to steer his team to victory.
Yeah, I mean, that is maybe the difference between a Perkz that's been at World Group Stage 3 times versus Cotopaco and the others who, as underdogs, have risen up. But you do need to take that next step. And I think this is where then we credit G2 for turning around this game and in the end finding himself in the group stage. And one person in specific I want to credit here is the MasterCard player of the game, Hjarnan. I mean, he's had actually a couple of good games during the series, but this one, it really shone through.
He was the only physical damage on his entire team. He crushed laning phase, and then in the team fight phase, really did not actually fall to any of these all-in attempts. There was maybe one time that they got onto him, which is very impressive considering they have no defensive champions to protect this immobile marksman. who wants to set up as a long-range artillery. And so the fact that Hjarnan was able to play this game out as well as he did is absolutely astounding.
Yeah, it certainly is. And I think the other impressive thing about Hjarnan is he is kind of meta-bending at the moment. He is being put more on utility. They're playing him as weak side. We have been talking all about, you know, the Wunder, the Perkz, and Jankos' ability to help them. So I think that this is a player that is going to cop a lot of flack throughout the whole of Worlds. But G2 just need him to be the role player. In this game, his role was to carry against all of the MR items, and he was able to do that.
Yeah, we'll have a lot of time to talk about what this G2 looks like going into the group phase. I'm sure there are question marks all over, but I would just like to finish off the chapters for both squads as we are getting ready for the interview. First off, maybe as the last thing, Infinity, you know, this was, as we know, the last time that LLN will be their own region, and next year they're merging. I feel like they've made a pretty good signal here that they are growing because they did better than Rainbow Seven did last year with people that are less experienced.
Not only that, they're coming from the dominant side of the region as well, so you would expect if they maintain their status as the best team in LLN, then that will carry them back to the likes of MSI and World. So for a young team, so much more on the table.
Yeah, for G2, though, as I said, we'll discuss it later, but we do want to hear from the winner. So Avali is standing by with G2's top laner.
I'm here with G2's top laner, Wunder, who played like an absolute monster in that series. That last game was incredibly close. So how are you guys able to make that comeback and take the win?
Well, I think our draft last game was really hard to play because we got like pressured on a lot of lanes, and they had like Olaf was a really strong jungler, so we were just like we were a bit lost and we took some bad fights, and then we were really far behind like in terms of pressure. So we just had to like farm and like look for really small openings, which we were sometimes good at and sometimes we failed like kind of miserably. But yeah, but like in general, I scaled really good on Ryze, so I could do a lot of damage and do a lot of work later in the game.
And kind of looking at the entire series, you had G2 fans a little nervous after game one, but then in game two, you came in with the Urgot, you came in with the Ryze. So what really enabled you to be so dominant and basically carry the team through this series?
Well, I think for our matchup and my matchup in the top lane, he's not like their star player or not like their best player. I think their mid jungle was really good, and like in the group stage, I'm both in this series as well. So I didn't really like I had a lot of confidence that I could play anything basically and play really well into this guy. But yeah, I mean I played Urgot and Aatrox, which are like two OP champs, and then Ryze into Urgot, which is like a fine matchup, not too good, not too bad either. So I don't know, I just had a lot of confidence, and it kind of showed, I guess.
And speaking of Urgot and Aatrox, we've seen them played a lot in the play-in stage so far. So what do you really think about the world's top meta, and how do you think you fit into it?
I think the world's top meta is pretty fun. I mean, honestly, you can play both tanks and bruisers and like really squishy carries as well, even though maybe like the latter part is a bit extinct right now. But I think it's pretty fun, and I think it suits me pretty well because I played all of these champs before, and I have basically I really thrive on these champs as well, I feel like. So I like the world's top meta, yeah.
And G2 is looking to get placed into either Group A or Group C. Is there a group that maybe you'd prefer?
I would like the group with Team Liquid and Matt and stuff like that. Also because I've heard rumors that the Group A with the Vietnamese team,
Phong Vu Buffalo.
Phong Vu, yeah, is doing pretty well. So being in a group with them and yeah, Africa and all of this is a good challenge. But I think the group with Team Liquid, also so that we can beat the first tier from NA, would be pretty fun, yeah.
I'm looking forward to that potential Rift Rivals matchup, but congratulations again on your win, Wunder. That's it for us here.
That Perkz, though, could be in a bit of a tough spot. Level 6 comes in, trying to burn down Cotopaco, not even worried about the Olaf Ignite. Still taking first blood for Perkz. How lost G2 look. All right, we're going to take a second. All the Irelia fans out there, that 6 seconds was for you. But Hjarnan remains untouched. The 80 carry gone means Hjarnan may be able to turn this. The double, though, dropping in the meantime. Infinity desperate to turn this one back, but they've already lost the fight. Dash through, pull back. There's the fear. There's the reset. Oh, my God. They're cutting through G2.
I'll kill off. You're that flash. Nice.